A very good evening from the Northeastern Service. A big hearty welcome to all our friends and listeners, and of course our eminent panelists who I will introduce. But first and foremost, I take this opportunity in wishing all our friends and neighbors a wonderful, a prosperous, and surely I have to stress on the word peaceful year 2020 ahead. Well, today it's a celebration of sorts where we are celebrating the 30 years of existence of the Northeastern Service when it was way back inaugurated on the 3rd of January 1990, and 30 years of existence in service to all people, especially of the Northeast, through its program, different genres of variety program that caters to the different sections of the people. I would take this opportunity to salute all the family, friends, and everyone who's part of the Northeastern Service of All India Radio to, a big congratulatory message. And of course, everyone who's been part of this family, whether they are the talkers, the artists, or performers, so on and so forth. We wish this 30-year milestone will be added up and another feather of 30 years and more, so 100 years of existence. It's a genuine, optimistic wish from us here from the Northeastern Service of All India Radio. And yes, this evening we're going to talk a bit on something which has been eluding away from us, that is, eluding peace in the vibrant Northeast. The Northeast, which is rich tradition and culture and history, something is eluding us because why? Without peace, there is no sustainable development, and a future which is bright can be rarely seen. Well, this evening I have three eminent panelists who are joining us from Guwahati. We have Mr. Prasanta Jyoti Barua, Executive Editor of the Assam Tribune, Guwahati. Good evening, Mr. Prasanta. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening.
Okay, good evening. Then we also have from Imphal, Rambam Noni Miti, Assistant Professor, DM College of Arts. Good evening.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. And also joined by Dr. Fiobemo Nguli, Consultant Psychiatrist and Chairman, Kohima Educational Society. Kohima, good evening and Happy New Year to the both three gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before starting discussion, I would love to throw this idea to the esteemed guests that the forum is open for discussion. You can always join in, drop in anytime with your comments. So we start off this discussion, eluding peace in the vibrant Northeast. During this festive season, many festivals have been celebrated in every part of the country. More so in the Northeast with the sole objective of ushering in peace and development in the region. And yes, the dawn of the 2020 is here. It is the responsibility of every citizen to see and ensure the coming new year to bring peace, tranquility and harmony among all communities in our vibrant Northeast, which is the need of the hour. And we are celebrating almost 72 years of independence and still peace is eluding. I'd like to start off with Mr. Prasanta with your opening remarks. Why is peace eluding, especially this part of this vibrant, colorful Northeast?
Well, peace is something which we are all yearning for all these years, all this decade in Assam and the Northeast. This is one issue that we all look forward to. In fact, after decades of violence, strife, in the last 2 to 3 years, we could see that peace was finally arriving in the Northeast. Stability was coming back. All the insurgency and other ultra outfits who were fighting against the government and all, they were coming to the peace talks and all. And in certain cases, agreements were being made. And all the issues were slowly getting resolved. Even the contentious Naga issue, political, was coming to an end. And we could see that all groups, all the people of Nagaland were yearning for peace and they wanted to move on for prosperity, for development. But we could see that last year, in fact, the dark clouds appearing in the horizon of the Northeast in the form of the Citizens Amendment Bill, which stipulated the government offering citizenship to people, minorities persecuted in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. especially people belonging to minority communities like Hindus, Christians, Parsis, Sikhs, etc.
Mr. Prasanta, I think I'll just go to our next esteemed guest, Mr. Rambam, your opening remarks, because we're talking here about peace, and what follows that is the sustainable development, which I will brief later. Your opening remarks of 72 years of independence, development in all areas is not happening as we wish, because peace, again, I would say, is eluding. So where are we standing right now, especially in the context of the northeastern part of India?
Mr. Dakar, I can figure out three important issues in the topic today. First one is elusiveness. Second is the vibrancy of the Northeast. And third one is the question of peace. Now, coming back to the first issue, the elusiveness is a question that we need to engage from a couple of dimensions. For example, elusiveness itself is not self-standing. One has to understand whether the parties involved who are supposed to bring peace in the region are taking issues of peace very seriously. Now, if that is the case, 2019, we have seen a lot of issues, as Prasanta was pointing out, CAP to CAA. The year began with CAB and it ended with CAA. Now you could see a lot of protests. Now the point that you raise, I think we have to first understand that the northeastern states, in terms of population, only contribute around 4% of India's population. Whereas we also have a lot of vibrancy in the sense that we have 400 dialects, 200 tribal communities residing in the region. And in terms of culture, sports, there's so much of variety. And in terms of resources, as we all know, that the region is potential for hydrocarbon resources, forests, and many more things.
Okay.
I think you raise a very important question by trying to know why is still peace elusive in the region. I simply want to begin by saying that the nature of issues in the Northeast can be seen from two dimensions. One, the political nature of the problem, and second, the issue of development. Now the issue that comes in is whether we can have peace through development or whether we can have development through peace. Both of them are actually very interdependent, and one cannot actually segregate the two. However, I feel peace must prevail first, and then we can initiate more serious kind of a developmental discourse.
Okay.
I have a feeling that since 1986 Mizo Accord, there has been no significant achievement in terms of engaging the armed groups or the people who are in conflict situation. However, there has been a lot of attempt. For example, last 22 years, we have been seeing NSA and IM-led peace talks.
Okay.
On the other side, in Manipur also, you can see around 21 armed groups have come together since 2008, and they're under suspension of operation.
Okay.
In this very round, I simply want to say that we are very hopeful that 2020 would be a great year for us. However, 2019, we could find that Manipur itself contributed to around 65% of UAPA-related arrests in the state. So
Okay.
I think we have a lot of opportunity as well as challenges.
Okay. Dr.
So I
Muli,
think
your
you can
opening
come in.
remarks?
Yeah.
I would like to thank the panelists. Let me just start my opening remark by saying or sharing a story about when Alexander the Great came conquering India. And when he reached Indus Valley, he found a very able-bodied person just sitting on a flat stone. And Alexander the Great was quite surprised as to how an able-bodied person could be sitting so idly. And he asked him, "What are you doing here, my dear man?" And he said, "I'm looking into nothingness."
Okay.
And the able-bodied person, they think that it's a gymnosophist. He asked Alexander the Great as to what he's doing. And Alexander said, he was surprised. When he's asking him, what am I doing? He said, I'm conquering the world. And he asked the gymnosophist,
Okay.
what are you doing? He said, I'm looking into nothingness.
Okay.
See, so this is where one context, one paradigm of peace, you know.
Yeah.
Probably the gymnosophist is in a peaceful way, and Alexander the Great is conquering the world to find peace.
Yeah.
So I think this is the kind of situation that where we are eluding peace in a vibrant Northeast. Maybe I could just say up to this much, and to listen to my other learned panelists.
Okay, I have this quote by Nelson Mandela. He says, "Peace is the greatest weapon for development that any person can have." And Amina Mohammed, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, on March 14, 2019 in Kenya, she addressed that we cannot have sustainable development without sustaining peace. Neither can we build a secure future for everyone without addressing the root causes of our conflicts, our vulnerabilities. So she says, sustaining peace. It's how you nurture that peace. So Mr. Prasanta, peace and sustainable go hand in hand. And surely, after so many years, and we are celebrating this new year 2020, and yes, we all know that we are peace-loving people and we celebrate many festivals in our respective states, and surely money has been pumped in these festivals to bring the so-called harmony, to usher in peace, but somewhere down the line there are loopholes and peace is never around. Your personal take on that?
You see, if we look through the history of Northeast, we find that there is, we are a very, as you have already said, we have about 200 tribes, different small communities. So there is a very strong distrust of the outsider. There is a phobia of losing our identity. There is a fear that we'll be swam by the great multitude of people coming from outside.
Okay.
So that is an existential threat that hangs over our head. And that is what makes us very uneasy, very uncomfortable. And most of the threats to peace or violence that has been witnessed in the northeastern region over the last 70 years or the last century, see, that is always have been a fight for protection of our land, of our customs, of our people. Whether it's Nagaland, whether it's Mizoram, whether it is Meghalaya, everywhere, or whether it's in Assam, there's always no struggle to protect ourselves. And they have gone a long way. I don't say that they have not done anything. Nagaland, whether it's Nagaland or even Manipur, the other day has been given inner line permit. Then these are all measures, under the 6th schedule. All these measures have been taken. Even in Assam, we have the Bodo Territorial Council, the Dima Hasao Council, the Karbi Anglong coming under the 6th schedule, getting protection of land rights and other protection. Actually, we are all, the people of Northeast are simple people, peace-loving people, basically, I would say. And our duty should be, you see, in Assam, last 2-3 years have been a very peaceful period in our history, I would say. The government has been doing a lot of development work. We had about 5, 6 new bridges coming in over the Brahmaputra, new roads being built, new airports being built. There is a big trust for development, for connectivity. Even the Look East policy, Act East policy has been strengthened. They're reaching out to Southeast Asian countries. There has been a very vibrant economy. Just one example. The new bridge has come up in Dibrugarh, over about 9-kilometer length over the Brahmaputra in Bogibel Bridge. That bridge has now opened up a vibrant economy between Assam and Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay.
If you go to Dibrugarh today, that sleepy town has been transformed into a vibrant center of economic development.
Okay. I'll just go to Mr. Aramba. We're talking about that. Let's have a different perspective, a different take, a different look on a cultural exchange program and festivals. How do we celebrate festivals now with an agenda that it connects each and everyone in bringing about peace, not just putting money in and we just do it for the sake of celebrating? I mean, there has to be a change of perception in the way we have our cultural exchange programs, our festivals, our concerts, and of course sports. How do you think? Do we have a different shift in that?
Northeast, as I said in the very first round, that Northeast actually has vibrant heritage of culture and sports. However, I think the policies that we see around, it has been slightly compartmentalized. For instance, the states would do their own programs. However, we also have seen sports activities organized at the level of northeastern states. But at the same time, if you look at, say, Hornbill Festival or Sangai Festival, there has not been much encouragement of the exchange of cultural groups within the states or interstate in the thing. So I think the question that you're raising, there has been some lack also in terms of integrating people from the policy perspective. Although in terms of food, dressing sense, and in terms of racial similarity, there has been a lot of affinity already. For instance, if you go to Delhi, it will be very difficult for anybody to distinguish between a Manipuri and an Agamis.
True.
So this reality always relevant. And I think what we need today probably would be that states organizing resources to bring these people together and have more exchanges of ideas. But the kind of exchange of ideas that we see, I feel it is more in the field of politics instead of culture.
Yeah, I think there
which is
should
not
be
sponsored, by the way, by the state.
Yeah, a shift in that. One interesting fact, Dr. Nguli, I just want to point out, we have in Sweden, they have the Stockholm Forum on Peace and Development. So every spring, this forum would bring together senior researchers, stakeholders, policymakers to discuss and address the most pressing peace-building issues. So that is an annual affair. I don't know whether that will happen in this part of our country where we have this a permanent forum where we can talk on peace with the stakeholders and how to go about and make sure peace is there and development that follows.
Yeah, I think in the Northeast, as vibrant as you say, definitely peace is very elusive. And one few things that makes us feel about the elusiveness of peace here is we cannot forget the revenge of geography. It's a Northeast, but then we are divided in different states, and many a time we tend to become too exclusive. We are not inclusive. We are not being able to raise our consciousness to a higher level of humanity,
Okay.
And we also forget the democratic principles or even the decision makings, Many a time I feel that the decisions are made, policies are made on the opinion of the people, Just they take a poll or they just take an opinion and then they take some decision. And those are policy decisions.
Okay.
But I feel that if we really want to think more in terms of peace, I think we really have to think more in terms of conviction, We have to be
Conviction
convinced
is the word, yes.
as a human being, And then we belong to a place, a region, and we are a human, and we have also human rights. So I think democratic principles and human rights, I think these are very important things on which we can look for peace. That is what I really feel so.
Mr. Nguli, I'll just
that is not
I'll just go to Mr. Prasanta. Last week, the Global Peace Index, the unit released last week, revealed that the world has become less peaceful since 2018. It also showed that the impact of violence on the world is put at around $9.8 trillion US. That is the money that is spent on maintaining peace and harmony. And I'm sure that amount of money, not that very much, is also spent in our states in the Northeast. It should have been used for some purpose, but again, it's used for someone to keep peace in our state. Now, this money can be diverted and can do so much to bring in development. Now, how can we divert that particular amount of money not to be used somewhere else, but to bring development, as you've said, peace and development, or development of peace that comes together?
Yeah, that's a very important observation you have made, about peace and security and the money we spend, in maintaining peace by stepping up our security measures.
Okay, I would request all the gentlemen, if you can come in anytime, please do so, just to remind, okay? You can please come in, okay.
Yeah. So this is a very interesting question. In fact, during the last few years in Assam itself, due to the prevailing peaceful atmosphere in our state, in Assam especially. So there have been news reports from the government saying that expenditure on security has come down very substantially. So that means literally that money could be diverted for development work.
Yeah.
And in fact, you see, last few years there has been a lot of economic activity in Assam as well as in other neighboring states, I believe. And there's been a lot of transformation and a lot of entrepreneurs coming in, in the private sector, setting up different industries, local industries like poultry, farming, piggery, small industries, and they're doing very well. Even tourism, even in Kaziranga, I would like to inform you, our panelists also and our listeners, that there are about, say, the 200 jeep safaris which are run by the local people there. These jeep safaris take the tourists who come from different parts of India and abroad around the safari, and they are living that way. About 200. There are also other restaurants, hotels, and lodges, which make good money.
Okay, I just want to share,
Mr. Prasanta.
I just want to add on to what Mr. Prasanta has said. For the last 1 year, particularly that's 2019, the state of Manipur was quite busy in political and many other movements. And we have a record of long bans and strikes. Now, it looks like for us that the debate on development has taken a backseat. In order to solve this question, I guess the government has to take a political mindset to engage with the diversity of politics. So therefore, I guess one has to be aware of the intensity of politics and people's anxiety, which otherwise will never trigger this question of development.
Okay. Now,
so I have a feeling that there are a lot of challenges.
Okay.
Lastly, for this round, I just want to say that the peace process must be done in a wholesome manner, not that some organizations or select organizations are brought into the realm of talks, because these will amount to some kind of piecemeal approach, which will be again hampering the long-term peace in the Northeast.
Okay, now, gentlemen, I have this contentious issue. I think there will be a change because the main stakeholders are our young people who's been led astray to different paths, which is not meant for them to go. I'd like to take this beautiful example. This is from Monte Carlo. The theme of this edition of the sports meet is the forum is all about investing in peace, acting through sports. Now, we are so talented in sports, this part. And Dr. Chung Won Cho, who is the president of this forum, he has taken this initiative because through this initiative, there has been numerous programs introduced in some underdeveloped countries, third world countries like Sri Lanka, some places in Bangladesh, where they get these young boys and girls telling them, don't do anything which is violent or bad for the nation. Just come and give your best with your talent through this forum, whether it's karate, it's tennis or whatever. So now this point is taken, sports. How do we take this sports as an instrument of peace, getting all our young friends on board? The question is open
supplement
for all.
On this.
Yeah, I would like to just
I have two examples.
Okay.
Yeah.
Particularly, there are two footballing events in the Northeast, which is mainly funded by NAC.
Yeah.
For example, number one is T.Ao Memorial Football Tournament,
Okay.
which is organized at the level of Northeast. On the other side, there is Tamchon Memorial Football Tournament, which is organized in Delhi. The missing link is the organization of these youths in sports and making them really work towards political peace. I think that has been missing, unless we understand this gap of the link, I think there will be no real progress in the field of peace. I think so.
Gentlemen, it's very sad. This is my personal opinion. I know we have many football tournaments that binds the states, bind the nation as one, but there is this commercialization aspect of the returns. Now, that is very bad. How do we shift from that, having a different perception altogether as organizers, as players, as spectators in the field? There should be some change because we can't just look for returns.
We go just from that perspective of that responding to challenges. I think the sports is one way which we can rightfully respond to the challenges. But while saying that, let me bring in some human elements that can really cause a lot of conflict and take away, to make peace more elusive and elusive. I think we can't forget the human element of fear, greed, and desire for power. I think these elements, unless we learn how to address, peace would remain to be elusive, in spite of however vibrant our culture is, or in spite of the kind of games or sports that we want to propagate and then to encourage. So I'm just adding these human elements.
Okay.
Maybe our other panelists can also share something here.
Okay, anyone can come in, yes.
Yeah, that's a very important aspect of, as you have said, about sports playing a role in bringing in peace and development. And as we have been saying, sports is very popular in Northeast, whether it's football or athletics and all that. And a lot of our young people are signing in the national and even in the international arena.
Okay.
Even sports people from Manipur are doing very good doing abroad, in different games. Even from Assam, we have Himadas creating record in the international arena. So, but what we're seeing is that we have the potential. We have people who can make it. Okay, if we give them the right atmosphere. But you see, but if there is, the peace is not there. If the situation is not congenial, then this tunnel will be nipped in the bud. So now we find that most of our sportsmen and young, girls and boys, they are going out of the region to shine in the national level and international arena. Okay. Unless they go out, they will not get the exposure, nor will they get opportunity of making a
I just want to
mark.
come in.
Okay, please.
So we have to nourish them here at the cradle of the infancy stage.
Okay.
When they are young, when they are kids and all that.
Okay.
So they cannot at the kids at that stage go up to at a higher level. So when we build them up at the level of when they are at the sub-junior or lower level, so we have to give them the right atmosphere, the right ambience, the right opportunities, the facilities and all. And that can be given when we have a peaceful atmosphere, we have good governance. Because you see, if there is no peace, good governance will not be there.
Okay, Mr. Prasanth, can you just...
activities will be affected if there is no peace.
Okay, we can have...
I just want to link up sports and politics.
Okay.
It feels like, the people from the Northeast have often asserted themselves in the field of sports and culture, where they're seemingly not able to come forward in politics. For instance, their voice in the parliament is almost very minimal. However, in the field of sports, you can see the vocal representation of the Northeastern people. Again, I'm feeling that there is a missing link. As a result of this, you can see when the Northeastern people are playing football in the competitions, they bring up a lot of regional political aspirations by coming together, by celebrating. So I think sports as a field of our identity has remained as it was. However, there has been a missing point. That is the anxiety of us and them. And for example, the son of the soil question.
Okay.
And as you just rightly mentioned, that ILP has come in Manipur. And you see the kind of fear from the point of the indigenous people in the Northeast. I think the government shall have to actually look into these kind of apprehension, fear.
Okay.
For which I think there is a need for understanding and recognition of the political nature of the problem. That will ultimately lead to long-term peace.
Okay, let us not forget, I think this is a continuous and important struggle for peace. As long as we are alive, we cannot say, today we do it today and tomorrow we achieve. No, I think it's a long-term plan. Now, how this plan has been put in place through different mechanisms, through the government, through stakeholders, through the NGOs, now is a question for you and me as stakeholders to decide. Now, I think it's time to bring forth a kind of social activism through peace. We need that to bring some justice. Now, how do you, as we're inching towards the close of the show, I know we'll have less time. Some closing remarks from the esteemed panelists, starting from Mr. Prasanta. I know we'll try to be very optimistic when we have our conclusions. I'm very sure peace is elusive, but it's somewhere there hiding. Mr. Prasanta.
Yes, you see, peace is elusive, but it is not impossible.
Okay,
I believe
wonderful.
That the genuine
Yes,
of the people, if it is accommodated by the government, I think peace is there and it will be here to stay in the coming days.
Mr. Arumbam.
I think there is a huge trust deficit Second, there is too much of lingering of peace processes. And lastly, there is a piecemeal process, which again is actually preempting any possibility of wholesome engagement of people for peace. This has to be understood. And the insecurity that exists amongst the people,
Gentlemen,
the minorities,
do we need a
I think that has
curriculum?
to-
Do we need a curriculum, a subject on peace through the kindergarten levels? Because I believe the family is the core of everything. Charity begins at home. The first school that we encounter is our family. What about the core issues being taught in the family? I mean, do we have some kind of curriculum in the future?
I think that should be there, but there is a primacy of understanding, why these things happen. Unless we understand that, all of a sudden we can impose on our children that peace has to be there. So it has to be a two-way process.
Okay.
Then only I think we can have an everlasting peace.
Okay. Anyone can come in on the family aspect?
I think on the family aspect, let me just come in with what Descartes said in 1800,
Okay.
that I think, therefore I am.
Yes.
Now after 300 years, Jean-Paul Sartre says, no, I think, therefore, and I am is separate. So I think even in the core issues,
Yeah.
and then they must take into consideration.
Okay.
Similarly,
We have just a minute, gentlemen.
yeah.
Anyone can
So
come in
I
just
could
2
just
minutes.
say, I could just say that love is blind,
Love is blind.
but
Beautiful.
neighbors are not blind.
That's
Okay,
very sad.
gentlemen.
the agency of the Northeast would be very important.
Yes.
And they should appreciate each other's point of view. There should not be any
Yeah.
imposition from
Okay.
one side.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
and
That's
sincerity
beautiful.
will be very
Last but
important.
not the
Sincerity
least,
from
last but
both
not the
sides.
least, gentlemen, before thanking you all, I have this beautiful quote by Carl Jung, and he says, "Where love stops, power begins, including hatred, violence, and terror, and that's where peace is elusive." Thank you so much, Mr. Prasanta, Mr. Arambam, Mr. Nguli, for your precious time. I hope we have more of time to talk next time. Thank you so much. Wishing you all a prosperous and, yes, a peaceful New Year, and wishing also the Northeastern Service of All India Radio celebrating today 30 years of existence. Well, this program is produced by Jay Gangte, and the engineers on duty would like to thank them is Mr. E.C. Shilla and Mr. L.P. Wajri. Till we meet again, it's back to the studios. Thank you so very much, and good night.